it's time for another week of What's for Dinner at our house. Thanks for stopping by. Let's get to cooking. For Sunday, our son and grandkids were coming over for dinner, so I was planning on making a big meal. So I ended up finding these foil pans in my trunk of all places, and they were pretty beat up. So here I'm just getting them shaped back into pans again, and then peeling off all of the stickers and everything and making sure that they're nice and clean and usable. Then I got busy chopping up some bell peppers into strips. I decided that I was just going to make some chicken fajitas in the oven. When I did my weekly prep and I chopped up my carrots and my onions, I decided to leave my bell peppers alone because I knew that I wanted to make fajitas one day soon. And I also find it kind of therapeutic when I get to hand chop my veggies, and so I was really kind of enjoying cutting my peppers into strips. I find it very therapeutic because you cannot really multitask when you're cutting up your produce. Sometimes we just need to find busy work for our hands in order to calm our minds down. Once I got those peppers all chopped up, I got to work on these bulb onions. That's what the label called them. They're like big green onions. And so I just chopped those up, and I just decided that's what was going in our fajitas because I didn't have any other onions that weren't chopped up into itty bitty pieces. I drizzled some olive oil on top of my onions and peppers, and then sprinkled on some tahini seasoning, and then just mix that all together with my hands. Next, I started trimming up these pieces of chicken. These are boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and what I found with the chicken thighs is that there's usually a little bone still attached, and then always some fat or skin too. I also chopped up some of the chicken breast and then added that together, so we're doing kind of a mishmash here. I used some fajita seasoning out of a packet and some olive oil, mix that all together. And then I'm just going to set this right here for now so that I can move some of that chicken back over on this side. That way I have two pans of chicken and veggies that I can mix all together and have two pans to put in my oven. We had a lot of people to feed, so we needed lots of fajitas. And I also had enough to send home with my son for his wife as well, who couldn't come over on this day. While the chicken and the peppers and onions were in the oven, I got some corn tortillas fried up. And I also made a really simple dessert. I just used a fudge brownie mix and a chocolate chip cookie mix. So after I got my brownies mixed up and in the buttered pan, then I went ahead and got that cookie dough mix made up just like it said on the box. Just followed the directions for each of the brownies and the cookie dough. And then I just dropped my cookie dough into the brownie batter by spoonfuls and then just put it in the oven and baked it. I did have to keep a close eye on it and poke it a couple of times here and there just to check for doneness. But other than that, it was pretty easy to make these. The kids were super excited about cookie brownies, and they turned out perfectly. To go with our fajitas, I made a boxed rice mix. I made the kids some chicken tenders and some fries, just because I knew that they probably wouldn't want the fajitas. It's not really something that they're into. I also made some refried beans by putting a little bit of olive oil in my frying pan and then draining 2 cans of pinto beans. I added in a little bit of taco seasoning that I made myself, some beef broth, and some dehydrated onions. And then once they started to really cook up and get nice and thick, I gave them a mash. That rice just got nice and bubbly. Everything came out of the oven nice and juicy, and everything was ready to dish up. And while we were getting our plates ready, I just set those cookie brownies aside so that they could cool down. And here's a look at my plate. I have my beans, my rice, and my fajitas. And this is just giving you a peek inside. I did put out some cheese and some sour cream for everyone else to have. On Monday, I was in the mood for some soup. So I got some water ready with some chicken bouillon powder added to that because I didn't have any chicken broth. I began to chop up some potatoes and get those going in that boiling water. I've been in the mood for a fish chowder or something like that, but I didn't have any fish in my freezer. I did have some shrimp, so I'm going with a shrimp boil soup. I just chopped up our smoked sausage into little round pieces, making sure that they're all about the same size. I used a fork to strain out some of those garlic chunks and then added that right into the pot as well. Then I added a couple of big scoopfuls of those diced up onions. I want to take a second to show you our new stove. My husband must have heard me complaining about the old one not heating evenly and pretty much being on its last leg, so he took me out shopping for a stove. While that soup is simmering and those potatoes are cooking, I got some Cheddar Bay biscuits ready. I had a box of those in my pantry, so just decided today was the day that they were going to get used. I just made them as the recipe called on the box. I was out of butter, so I did have to use olive oil to mix with the herb seasoning that you brush on top. These biscuits are always so good. Just gonna pop them in the oven and let those do what they do. And get back to the soup. I did add my cut up sausages. I guess I lost that footage. I added a can of corn. I'm also boiling some eggs, and I'm making some fried sausage for Cameron as well. I'm adding a couple of teaspoons of Old Bay seasoning. You don't want to overdo the Old Bay, that's for sure. I learned that the hard way. I also added some black pepper and some chopped up parsley. Now you can do corn on the cob if you want to, but I just decided to use the kernel corn. In the back, I made some mac and cheese for Cam as well. And like I said, I just used some olive oil to go on top of these because we were out of butter. After I brushed that olive oil on it, I just popped them back in the oven for a hot minute. Last, I added my uncooked shrimp. The tails are removed from the shrimp, and you don't want to overcook these. They only take like a minute to cook, and like I said, a minute or two maybe. But anyway, the soup is ready to go. And it's still cold here in Michigan. It's still winter in March, so this soup just hit the spot. It's a great way to have your shrimp boil all year long, paired up with a Cheddar Bay biscuit. And, you know, for the kiddo, I just finished off his dinner with some of the Blue Box mac and cheese. Over the years, as a mom to many, I have learned that it's always good to have a backup plan. I dished up my bowl of soup with a slice of lemon and half of a boiled egg. I just had them set to the side so people could have them if they wanted. And not everybody did, but I just felt like it added something special to the soup. It's Tuesday and I'm just doing a really quick and easy dinner, just some pizza using our naan bread. I have this package of marinara sauce that I've had in my freezer. I don't know what it came with, probably like some mozzarella sticks or something, but I just thawed that out in my microwave really quickly, and I'm just going to put some on each piece of my naan bread. Oops. Next, I have this provolone and mozzarella blend cheese just sitting around in my fridge, so we're going to use that on these pizzas today. And as you can see, I do not skimp when it comes to cheese. All right, and now I'm going to add some of these real bacon pieces because I don't happen to have any cooked up bacon and I don't feel like cooking bacon. So just gonna use this for that bacony flavor. Next, it's time to add our pepperoni. Next, I'm going to add some canned mushrooms, just to 2 of them. And I also have some chopped up onions in my fridge, so those are going on too. And I want to put those right on the top so that they get cooked really good in the oven. These pizzas are done, so I'm just going to sprinkle on some Parmesan cheese. I'm sorry, my dogs are eating in the background, so you can probably hear them crunching. They only seem to come and eat when I'm in the kitchen. I must have had a clump in my cheese. I had to break that up a little. All right. So I'm also sprinkling on just a little bit of Italian seasoning. And then a little bit of crushed red pepper. Just a little bit. These pizzas are good to go. Look at that. Here's my finished plate. As you can see, these pizzas are the perfect size that you pretty much don't even have to cut them. You can just pick them up and eat them. And I just made a little salad to go along with that, and that was just the easiest dinner that I could put together in a hurry. On Wednesday, I grabbed one of the meal kits that I prepped a couple days earlier. This one was the meatloaf. On this day, I was really tired after work, so I was really happy to have a meatloaf already made up. All I had to do was put it on a baking sheet and put it in the oven for 40 minutes on 375. Then I took it out and added a can of cream of mushroom soup. This is how my husband and sons like their meatloaf, so this is what they get. I just put that back in the oven to finish off cooking. I made up some instant mashed potatoes and that can of corn, and dinner was served. This kind of meatloaf is never very photogenic, but you'll have to trust me that it is super delicious. On Thursday, I grabbed another one of the meal kits out of my fridge. This one is for baked spaghetti. It has a container of ricotta, a can of petite diced tomatoes, a can of pasta sauce, a bag of thin spaghetti, a bag of mozzarella cheese, a partial bag of pepperoni, and a package of hamburger and pork sausage, and a package of spaghetti sauce mix. This is actually venison burger that I'm adding to my skillet. And then along with that, I'm adding some pork spicy sausage. And this sausage is from our pig that we won, but it's not very hot and spicy. After all, I did add some chopped up garlic to this as well. And since these meats are very lean, I had to add some garlic or some olive oil as well. And that also means that I didn't have any fat to drain off. While this is cooking, I added some Italian seasoning. Whenever I'm making sauce, I like to make sure that my meat is well seasoned. Then I added that can of tomatoes and my package of spaghetti sauce mix. I just got that all mixed together in my big skillet, and then I added my can of spaghetti sauce. I like these cans of Hunt spaghetti sauce because they're so affordable, and since I always add lots of garlic and Italian seasoning and extra spices to my sauce, it always tastes delicious. I then cooked up my spaghetti noodles and drained them, and to my hot noodles, I added that container of ricotta cheese. We do not care for cream cheese recipes, so we like to make our baked spaghetti with ricotta cheese. I then added some grated Parmesan cheese and some pepper and a little bit of butter. And I'm telling you, I could have made a meal out of just this mixture itself. But I ended up putting that spread into my buttered baking dish. I don't know what size this pan is. All I know is it is huge because somehow I made enough spaghetti for the neighborhood, as usual. It's just one of those dishes that grows and grows as you cook it. So for the next step, I just poured my meat sauce right on top of the spaghetti noodles. And we could stop here even with those cheesy noodles on the bottom and that meaty, garlicky, tomatoey sauce on top. That's a meal in itself too. But why stop there when you could do so much more? You know, like add a bunch of cheese on top of that. So I got busy doing just that. I mean, buttery, cheesy noodles on the bottom and cheese on top of the meat sauce. You're speaking my language. I do love cheese. And last, I just added the sprinkles. I mean, the pepperoni. This is just something that I started doing when my kids were all young, just to kind of make spaghetti fun. When all 6 kids lived at home under the same roof at the same time, it seems like we had spaghetti about once a week, so I would try to find ways to make it more exciting. We used to call this one pizza baked spaghetti when they were all little. I don't think anyone even noticed that I made this with venison this time, and to be honest, even I forgot about that part. I just served up a really simple salad on the side, and that was Thursday night's dinner. On Friday, we went to the movies, and since we had a late lunch anyway, we just had our popcorn and snacks and then just had whatever for dinner later. And then on Saturday, I just used up my last dinner kit. We did have a breakfast kit too, but I ended up using the breakfast one for breakfast. So here I am just unboxing the ingredients for some smothered burritos. And I have way too much stuff in here, but I guess it's better to be safe than sorry. And since we had fajitas at the beginning of the week and we had all these tortillas left, we are just going to end the week with some smothered burritos. And so to get started, I just have my cast iron skillet out, and I began by browning up this 1 pound of hamburger meat. And then to make it stretch a little further, I had a partial bag of steak strips. To that, I just added some taco seasoning and some chopped onions. These had been prepped earlier in the week as well. Next, I added in 1 can of the fire roasted green chilies, and then just about a half of a can of red enchilada sauce. I just wanted this filling to have lots and lots of flavor. And I just stirred that all together and then let it simmer. I made the meat much earlier in the day and then had it ready to go at dinner time when it was time to assemble the burritos. And to do that, all I did was just lay out some of that meat on those tortillas and just roll them all up and place them in my greased casserole dish. Once all the burritos were rolled up and in the dish, I just used whatever was left in the pan and just spread it on top. There wasn't really that much, but I sure didn't want to waste it. I then poured 1 can of red enchilada sauce right over top. Then I added some shredded cheddar cheese. I am never stingy when it comes to cheese. To finish these off, I just put them in the oven on 400 uncovered until they were nice and golden brown. In my same cast iron skillet that I cooked up the meat, I just added a little bit of olive oil and I just spread that around and just kind of loosened up those bits from the meat. And then I just added a half a bag of diced hash browns, and then I just sprinkled on some more of that taco seasoning. It was a last minute decision to cook up some potatoes on the side. I did add a can of those chopped green chilies in with the potatoes. And then I added a spoonful of sour cream. Then finished it off with some sliced cheese slices. Yeah, sliced cheese. There we go. I just put a lid on it and let that cheese melt down and then stirred it in. Of course, I had some sliced avocado on my plate with some of this tahini seasoning, my burrito, and then some of those steamy hot fiesta potatoes. I just topped my burrito with some cilantro and a little bit of sour cream. And that was our last dinner for the week. Thank you so much for coming by and watching this video. If you had fun here today, please give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.